Next, we will sew the card holder. Take the required leather. The tools needed are round wax thread, a sewing needle, and scissors. First, determine how the leather pieces will be arranged. Combine 3 pieces as shown. And then place the 2 sets of leather back to back, forming a complete card holder setup. We will start by sewing the inner layer, first determining the required length of thread. Now, let's measure the wax thread. Pinch one end of the thread and lay it on the leather. This is the length of one thread. Now measure 5 times this length of wax thread. Then, continue to extend the thread to 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and up to 5 times the length. After measuring the 5 times length, cut the thread. Next, let's talk about threading the needle. We will be sewing with 2 needles at the same time, so both ends of the thread need to be threaded. Begin threading the needle by inserting one end of the thread into the needle hole, pulling out a length of thread. Then insert the end of the sewing needle into the thread loop, and pull the short end of the thread to form a knot. Finally, pull the long end to tighten the short end, and that completes one side of threading the needle. Repeat the same process for the other side. Let's demonstrate this process again. Now, we will demonstrate how to sew using 2 needles. First, insert one needle through the first hole in the 2 pieces of leather. And insert the other needle through the second hole. Then, align the 2 needles to ensure the lengths of both threads are the same. Next, pull the second needle down tightly while holding the first one in place. It's important to note that if you choose to sew upward, you should maintain the same direction throughout the sewing process. If you change direction, the stitches may become uneven, so it's crucial to keep the direction consistent for neat stitching. Then, take another needle and insert it from the back through the leather. And then insert it from the front through the needle hole. Hold the sewing line in place with your fingers. Then take another piece of thread and repeat the process, inserting it from the back through the needle hole, then from the front through the hole. Repeat the process, making sure the direction of the stitching remains consistent. Continue this process until all pieces are sewn. When you reach the end of sewing, demonstrate how to finish by threading the needle back into the previous stitch and cutting the thread at the back. This completes the sewing of the card holder's inner layer. Repeat the same method for the remaining piece, and sew it. Next, we take glue and apply it to the 2 ends of the inner leather layer that need to be stitched together. Use a small amount of glue to attach the two pieces of leather back to back. And then align the outer leather pieces, and glue them in place. You can use a sewing needle to help align the positions. After all pieces are glued, proceed with the sewing. First, measure the wax thread by pinching one end and laying it on the leather to measure the required thread length. Then, extend the thread to 5 times its length. After measuring, cut the thread. We will also be sewing with 2 needles at the same time, so both ends of the thread need to be threaded. Now, begin sewing. Insert one needle through the first hole, and the second needle through the second hole. Align the 2 needles to ensure the thread lengths are the same. Pull the second needle down tightly while holding the first in place. Continue the sewing process, ensuring the direction of the stitching remains consistent. Take another needle and insert it from the back through the leather. Then from the front through the hole. Continue with this method, making sure the stitching direction is always the same. Sew the remaining pieces in the same manner. This completes the card holder.